Dean. Welcome to Breakfast with Bobsy.
Thank you for having me.
Good finally to get here,
Yeah.
right? Took a while, but here we are on a wonderful, crisp winters/autumn Hong Kong morning, yeah?
It's a beautiful day today, yeah.
Welcome. Now, Christina, you don't need much introduction in Hong Kong. You've been at this for quite some time. You are the founder of Redress, which is at the forefront of sustainable fashion and raising awareness about the impact the industry is having on our planet. But I know you didn't start out as that. You started out as a dentist, if I'm not mistaken, and then you became a journalist. And perhaps then it's when you had your awakening moment, perhaps. So why don't we start at the beginning?
Wow, the beginning is, it's an unusual journey, and it's only like in retrospect that I can see why all the little steps that I have taken led me here right now. And so basically, yes, I was a dentist, and I had and continue to have a real sort of passion for public health. It's kind of, I was brought up by my parents who sort of work in public health, my mom in particular, and I trained as a dentist, and I went around Asia providing free dental services to anyone from like murderers, sex workers, orphans, slums, like really marginalized, disadvantaged people that can't even afford a toothbrush.
Was that with an NGO?
No, it was a little bit more guerrilla. It was me and my dental kit. I had like a portable dental kit.
Wow.
Yeah, because my dad used to do that. You get so influenced. When he was young, he's a dentist, So anyway, I did this, and it was the most brilliant thing I've probably ever done, really. But to go in and, when you're a health professional, whether you're a dentist, a doctor, or a nurse, or you actually really become one eye to eye with your patient, if you want to call it that. And for me, going around Asia, these far-flung places that, you never go there. You never like hang out in a prison.
Like into villages and stuff?
Yeah,
and,
way off rubbish dumps and,
There must be a story or two there.
Oh, that's a
Any
whole...
big one that jumps to mind?
I think for me, the murderers were the big ones, because, I was granted access. Yeah, exactly. That for me was... because I was treating people and they hadn't had a dentist like 20 years in this place and pulling out teeth. And to me, I didn't even know they were murderers. I was just they didn't speak English. I was pulling. And then, to one guy at the end, I got chatting through an interpreter someone who spoke English. And basically, he was a murderer. And it was just interesting for me because it didn't matter that he was a murderer to me. He was still a patient. I didn't want to hurt him or, I wanted to do the best job that I could. So that was for me a bit of a standout one. Anyway, the point around that was that I do have a strong belief in public health. And what that means to me is I believe that we have the right to live on this planet without having our health impacted, particularly by external factors. If you are going to be super unhealthy and smoke and, have an unhealthy lifestyle and eat really badly and cause yourself diseases, well, that's bad. But it's, to me, even worse when it's inflicted by others onto you. And so for me, again, that was very strong. And then I retrained as a journalist. And then when I was in Hong Kong, I worked as a freelance journalist, and I wrote a lot about environment, pollution, and public health. And
why did you write about environment and pollution?
Because I'm interested in it.
Right.
And because if you think, I was brought up and raised in South Africa originally, and then I lived in the beautiful leafy countryside of the UK. I come from quite a sort of eco-sustainably minded family. Like my mom strives to be self-sufficient in her vegetable garden. Like it's just quite normal to me. So coming
liberals here, back in the day.
But coming here, I was quite challenged about what on earth is going on around here with the air, the soil, the water, etc. So I wrote a lot about it. And then I also did a big cycling trip. I'm a keen long-distance cycler, and I cycled throughout southern China, from Hong Kong, in fact, to Hanoi, to sniff out the situation on my bike.
This is when you were a journalist?
Yeah, it was sort of all roughly around. There was an a stage where it was sort of all overlapping. Anyway, the point is that it was the commitment and passion around public health, combined with the fact that the fashion and textile industry is really creating negative impact on the planet, which for me doesn't sit well. Because a lot of the people who are really truly struggling from the fashion and textile industry are the marginalized people, the people who are struggling from climate change right now. It's not so much us. Yes, of course, it's costing the global economy a lot to deal with climate change, but those who are truly truly affected are the more marginalised people, actually.
Here
Hi.
comes our coffee. Hello.
Here's our signature coffee and also Bobsy's favorite,
Yummy.
Yeah, what is it?
which is a cocoa. So this is our version of a bullet coffee, but we do vegan fuel and also vegan milk. In our cocoa, we got cacao butter and also a plant-based milk. And here we got Oakley, which when it blended with the cacao butter, it gives a pretty creamy and rich texture in it.
Yummy.
And tastes of hints of white chocolate.
Wow, that's delicious. It's it feels like a healthy meal in itself,
It
right?
is a meal in itself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aspasia.
Yeah, thank you so much. Delicious. Wow.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Very nice. Is it a special recipe then? Wow, that is delicious. Did you come up with this?
We did, actually. We're very proud of our coffee. It took us literally 3 days here to develop it, to find the right coffee, the right type of coffee. In this case, it's organic fair trade Honduran coffee, to blend with our plant-based milks, because you wanted to get the balance of the alkalinity and the acidity. So we balanced that. But then the eureka moment came when we wanted to add a fat, a third dimension. And people had been adding butter from cows into their coffees, and something anyway the Nepalese and the Tibetans were doing traditionally. But being plant-based, we thought, let's add raw cacao butter and give it a nice fatty texture. And that added a third dimension. But here in Manon, with the V Coffee, you can build your own coffee the way you build your own flats. So you choose your coffee.
Yeah.
Do you want Honduran coffee or do you want
Yeah.
non-coffee coffee? You choose your milks, and then you choose your fuel. So the fuel is either raw cacao butter or coconut oil, and occasionally CBD oil.
But can I just say, because I find apparently like you can only make 450 decent decisions in a day.
Is it?
Well, apparently, because we're constantly making decisions about, which way you're going to go, you're going to, from, what am I going to eat,
Imagine
etc.
most of those are unconscious, right?
Yeah,
Subliminal.
but it's tiring on the brain. I mean, my point is, because I am quite a boring coffee orderer, I just go black Americano.
Habit, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, I would go, and you've got to pick that and that and that and that. I mean, for me, I might be overwhelmed, but this is very delicious. So if I just wanted to get that without having to think about it, what would I ask
for? The cocoa.
The cocoa one.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
And then
yeah.
they might say, do you want oat milk or soya milk or coconut milk? And
Yeah.
you state
Okay.
what milk you want.
Okay.
But yeah, just go for the cocoa without thinking.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay, good. Done.
But I take your point as a fashionista.
Yeah.
I mean, my background is fashion as well, and your fashion. You don't want 100 choices when you go in. You know your favorite jeans. You might want them in 2 or 3 colors, but that's it, right?
In your closet, your personal closet.
Yeah, in your closet. So less is more.
Well, less is only more for the people who are more engaged in the topic, because they're still, I'm going to say, the lion's share of fashion consumers globally who want more. And that's more because inherently we're all quite greedy, and I include myself actually. Deep down you have to work hard not to be selfish as humans. It's kind of in our DNA slightly. But the reason I say that is because most people are still continuing to want more and more and more, because the kind of act of shopping satisfies something in them. It's a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
They don't often really want the clothes. So my point to that is that I strongly, strongly believe that to have a more conscious closet, but also just to have a fashionable closet and to have an easy life, you need to have fewer clothes. Because, back to these 450 decisions that we make a day, who can really be bothered to really think every day, what shall I wear? I mean, we all do it, but what a waste of time.
Yeah.
The fewer clothes we have, the more you can just get out there and start your day. So there's a shift for sure.
There is a shift.
But the shift is more amongst people who've actually thought about it for longer and who are further sort of engaged in how they want to run their lifestyle. So it's a conscious act to really have less.
It follows on, doesn't it? Well, once you start becoming aware of what's really happening in the world, also your sensibilities seem to change. So for me, in my case, and a lot of my friends around me, they know what they like. This is the type of jeans I want. Don't give me 10 different types of jeans.
Yeah.
But I might want it in black, I might want it in white, and in jeans color. That's it. And then I'll wear those 3 jeans throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the same as shops, by the way. I would say that. Like, if you want to go shopping, you need to go to a shop that's curated. We're overwhelmed right now. And I think, talking to buyers and merchandisers who put collections together for the big boutiques. Curation is what people are after. They don't want to go in and see 5,000 white dresses. They just want the top 10 to pick from. Yeah. Anyway.
So that's a sensibility that's changing within fashion.
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you mentioned your background as a dentist, which I found fascinating, especially that guerrilla type of going into the bush, so to speak, and then you became a journalist, and you became more intellectually aware, I suppose, about what on earth is happening. And was there a turning point, perhaps, that made you want to say, well, I'm going to start my own NGO here and do something about this fashion problem we have in the world?
Yeah, I think it was writing about it and discovering that, you know, as a journalist, you must portray a balanced view. And that is where everything started. There wasn't a balanced view. I couldn't find anyone back in 2005, 6. And then in 2007, I started. I couldn't find anyone in Asia really battling against it. And that, for me, I didn't actually ever really want to start Redress.
No.
I didn't go, oh, I'd love to do that. I didn't. I just thought, there's no one raised. I found out so much knowledge, and yet I couldn't find anyone who was actually doing anything about it. So I took it on because it was like an enlightened moment of holy crap. Do
you remember that moment? Did you have to go and discuss it with someone in particular?
I remember it.
Yeah.
I don't remember which restaurant. I was in Lan Kwai Fong having dinner.
Manor, of course.
Well, I was actually having some Chardonnay. I remember that with my husband, and we were just chatting. And I really was concerned, and it was through this dinner that I said, you know, just a normal husband and wife conversation. I said, I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. And he said, go for it, and that was it.
You didn't say, oh my God, my wife's turned into a hippie now? No?
No.
Oh, good. So you had his blessing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's looking back with hindsight, it could have been very daunting to just think of the next steps you had to do, but you probably just followed your passion, right?
I definitely followed my passion, and I think back in the day, I actually didn't have any wild expectations of what I was going to do with it. It was like the next big decision was to raise awareness around it, and Redress has evolved with time, and I could honestly say that I never expected to be sitting right here 13 years on after starting Redress, still talking about it. And the thing for me, which even surprises me, that when I get going on this topic, I'm as freaked out as I was 13 years ago with my Chardonnay, if not more, actually, because I've learned so much more, and the more I learn, kind of the trickier it all becomes.
But it's not disempowering, is it?
No, not at all. Yeah. No, I think, and I'm ready for a big battle this year. I oscillate between being unbelievably furious and unbelievably hopeful. And 2020 has come, and I'm going to go to my grave whenever that day comes. I hope it's a long time away, but the problems are going to be still very severe. And for me, I think I've been doing this for a long time, and this year I'm going to really push on hard, because everything suggests, in terms of reports and stats, that everything's getting worse. So whilst we talk about, you know, engaged consumers and fashion businesses changing, etc., the truth of the matter is all the statistics suggest that it's going to be terrifyingly worse, and it's mainly because of global population.
Indeed. The situation has to get worse. On every level. And there are big storms coming our way. Because even if everyone stopped today, in January 2020, if the entire planet went, and everyone went vegan, plant-based, and became very conscious of their consumption, the environmental crisis is coming. It has to.
It's still coming.
Even if we stop today. And we haven't stopped today. And as you just said, it's getting worse in the fashion world. It's rapidly getting better in the
food.
Diet, in the food system of how we feed humanity. But still, there's a big backlog to come. So there's no doubt people are waking up. People are becoming more educated. People are realizing what on earth is going on. There's no doubt about it. And that's an exponential rise. But the sheer number of humans alive today, 8 billion almost, and the social, economic, political system in which we operate is still intact. It's still there. So yeah, I fully support you. I think 2020 is a time to shout out even louder.
Yeah, I think
To
so.
pull out all those stops we've had, all the things we've learned over the last decade, 2 or 3,
Yeah.
and put them out there because our audience is there.
But I feel like, yes, okay, it's 2020, there's a sense of urgency, but I think also there's a sense of responsibility. I've come of age, okay, I'm 41, I'm 41, and I've been engaged in this for a long time, but I feel quite ashamed of my generation. And I feel a huge responsibility. Like, who are the leaders of today? Now, there are leaders of today aged 15, or, obviously Greta's the famous one, but, from young kids, they're leaders to the older generations. But I personally feel that my age group has got a lot of responsibility to take right now. And I look at my kids and I'm pretty ashamed. I think, for so many generations, we've also just your generation to solve it, and it's just not acceptable.
No.
Yeah.
It's funny, in the BBC World Service I was listening to this morning, they're talking about the Holocaust that happened. And the subject is, well, what were the German people thinking back then? How could they have aligned to such a murderous regime? And of course, Germany's been coming to terms with this for a very long time, and many people have, and many people have moved on. But because it's the anniversary of the Holocaust, people are saying, well, how could have my grandparents have supported such a regime? And you know what I think immediately? Well, how can people today be supporting the destruction of planet Earth?
Yeah.
We're all complicit from top to bottom and bottom to top. So how on earth can your generation, my generation, and the younger generation be complicit in deforestation, in air pollution, in water pollution, in extinction of species, in eating the oceans? And there's your answer. There's your answer. It's easy to look back with hindsight and say, well, the Germans and the Jews and all of that. But the question today is, how on earth can we be sitting on the fence watching chemical plants pump out tons of chemicals? How can we do that? So there's your answer, We're all complicit today.
Yeah, but I feel, again, in one day I can be furious and hopeful and angry and swearing and then, inspired and all of that. But I think now we shouldn't be fearful. Because if you look at the numbers, honestly, I find it terrifying. But I've got to stop doing that. We've got to look at it as get involved. It's a good fight to go for.
And let us focus on the positive.
Yeah, we got it.
Let us focus on all the change makers, millions of them.
Yeah, but that's what I tell myself. I have to get into the positive frame of mind because it's very easy to get disillusioned. Yeah.
We're surrounded by negative news, but there is a lot of positive news happening. And if we looked at that, we will be encouraged, we will be regenerated, we will become more and more optimistic because there are serious grounds for optimism.
Yeah, are there?
People,
what are they?
Well, here we go.
Okay.
What really, really matters is people's minds. So once people change their mind about something, society and all the institutions follow. We changed our minds about slavery once upon a time. Now, the economy back then could not have operated without slaves. Everyone agreed that we need a slave to grow the food, the cotton fields, the crops, the farming, etc. Everyone was complicit. But then slowly a small minority of people started to change their minds about slavery, that it's wrong morally and every other way. And gradually the number of people who started to change their minds about slavery grew exponentially. And then there was a tipping point, and suddenly everyone's banned slavery, slavery is banned. And we see the same happening with women's rights.
I was just going to say the same,
So historically looking back, we see this pattern, but we seem to be suffering from amnesia. We keep on forgetting. And only with hindsight we go, yes,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Funnily enough, I was just with my sister-in-law and we would talk recently and she's really on this hardcore spiritual yoga mission and she's really into it, much more than I'm not particularly, but we were talking about how consciousness and intention can actually change policy and law. And those are the two examples, in fact, we were chatting about. If you look at let's talk about the slavery, the change of consciousness around equal rights slowly became a norm, and then it changes policy. And so too, we should see that in the environment. And there are governments that are changing legislation around that. So there is hope. There is definite hope. And it does start in the mind and in each of us. And it's just, I sometimes feel that that's a bit cheesy, but
it does. There is a global mind change happening today.
Yeah.
And you see the younger generation now, what we call Gen Z or even the millennials, they are embracing this full-heartedly, very different to our generations or the older generations, what you call the baby boomers. And for them, it's very, very real. For them, it makes so much sense. It's like, duh, of course the Earth is round. Who's been saying the Earth was flat? But once upon a time,
people thought that, you
were beheaded or burnt at the stake, and the early people who spoke about slavery. Or the suffragettes who spoke about women's rights to vote. They were beaten, they were imprisoned, they were ridiculed. And the same thing is happening today. So we need to focus on the amount of people who are shifting consciousness, who are waking up, who are going, of course, this is our home, of course. And that number is growing exponentially, means it doubles every year, tremendously. So there will come a tipping point where there's more people on planet Earth who subscribe to this. And then, lo and behold, institutions start to change, education, health.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And then next thing you know, governments start to change, and then all the planet goes, yes, we have to protect our one and only home because we have no other.
Yeah, but I would also say, by the way, yes, governments will change, but it's also because there is a price on the pollution, there's a price on climate change, there's a price, and that price can be measured in environmental cleanups and also in public health, coming back to the impact. So
there is a price.
And we're all paying the price, actually, through, if you think, where do our taxes go?
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to clean up all of this mess.
I hope so. As opposed to going to fund the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and God knows what. But good news for you. You know this trade war between China. They're increasing tariffs now on clothing. So you know how you always say clothing is way too cheap.
Yeah.
Now the price of clothing is going up by 10%.
Yeah, but this is a political issue between these two markets. But
it is political, but it's not, because underlying it, there's social, environmental factors happening.
But you think that the US is going to stop consuming as many clothes because of that? Well, they might, but largely what, of course, will happen is the supply chains is just moving to other countries where there isn't the levy.
Will, but there's also another levy in China, so it's going both ways, where it's produced, where it's consumed.
Yeah.
So one could say this is an accidental byproduct, but the reality is there are stirrings, much deeper stirrings happening.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it's going to become 10% more expensive to produce clothes.
Yeah.
So it means people start focusing more on better quality.
Yeah, but they'll also just focus on moving the production to other countries. I mean,
but we're running out of countries.
I don't know. We haven't tapped Africa, have we yet? I mean, Africa's opening up. But I think on taxation, by the way, it hasn't yet happened, but the UK government suggested in reports which were not taken forward that they recommended putting a 1p levy on every garment sold, and the 1p levy would have raised £35 million annually to pay to put towards landfill. Or the UK government spends £28 million every year just dealing with clothing waste. And I think that's disgraceful. We're looking to, and I don't know the answer to this, because if anyone knows the answer, we're going to look into what is Hong Kong spending on our textile in our landfills. And we're going to look into it, but we don't know the answer yet. Because when you put a number on stuff, that makes people think more. We talk about consciousness, but let's also talk about hard money.
Well, then you raise people's awareness. And people go, oh my God, really, is that happening? Let's do something about it. And
exactly.
Then do something about it.
Yeah, I would be rather paying for education than putting clothes in landfill.
Absolutely. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. The whole social, political, economic system in which we operate our life and planet Earth does not make any sense whatsoever. So looking back in 50 years' time, we're going to be going, what the fuck were we doing?
Yes, we're a stupid generation.
But as we're Hong Kong and we're Hong Kong people and we live in Hong Kong and Hong Kong is our home, some of the statistics in Hong Kong are quite alarming, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, for clothing and textile waste, yes. I mean, the average daily textile waste, which includes clothing, is 292 tons every single day. And
It's
that's
almost 300 tons.
tons.
300 tons of garments
and textiles.
and textiles
So that could be curtains and carpets.
going into our landfills.
Every day.
Like, where's it fitting? And not to mention all the food, or 40%
Yes,
of all of Hong Kong's waste
I
is
know.
food waste.
Well, and also, so if you look back from 2011 to 2018, which is the most recent stat, we've increased textile waste by 82%. It's disgraceful. And as you know, landfills go along with the economy, you know.
Yes.
But, well, what was I going to say a but for? Yeah, I wanted to talk about food. See, in some ways, you're lucky. Because I'm going to say,
I'm very lucky.
I thought around a third to 40% of Hong Kong's landfills are food. That's what I thought. It's roughly in that order. But poor old textiles, we are only 3%. And I say you're lucky because it's easier for you to argue around food waste than it is for just a little 3%.
Yes.
It sounds a bit pathetic down there, but that 3% of textiles is unbelievably polluting to make. So we talk about all of the negative impacts on the environment and all the people and all the cancers and the diseases and the chemicals and the climate. And then that was all for waste because we just chucked it into the landfill. In fact, globally, every 1 second, the equivalent of one dumper truck of textiles is landfilled or incinerated. Every second.
Alarming.
That's just stupid. It's just stupid.
And of course, cotton, to grow cotton, it consumes a lot of
water.
right? And,
Huge amount of pesticide. And pesticides affect biodiversity enormously, you know?
yes.
Yeah, so it's...
Absolutely alarming. And of course, people need to become aware of this. But once you become aware of something, you get empowered
Yeah.
to do something about it.
Yeah?
It's not the opposite. People think, oh my God, I'm going to put my head in the ground and I can't do anything about it. But no, the more I become knowledgeable about what on earth is happening, the more empowered I am
Yes.
to use that information to raise awareness.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the most sustainable resource in our hands is awareness. So once you become aware, that's it.
Yeah.
So awareness,
that.
we need to grow awareness more and more. Because once your mind expands, it doesn't shrink back by nature. You know? Once the light comes in, that's it. The lights come in.
Yeah.
But just to talk a little bit more about the alarming statistics of fashion, like how many liters of water to make one pair of jeans?
Yeah. So one pair of jeans is around 3,625 litres
Roughly
of water.
4,000 liters.
4,000, and I want to say, isn't that like... I feel like that's 2 years of drinking water for a person in a developing country, but I might be wrong on that. But 3,000, okay, let's call it 4,000 litres of water.
Yes.
And we're facing a global water crisis, and yet we are so generously giving our precious water to create the jeans which a lot of people might not wear for very long.
No.
And, you know, how many pairs of jeans do we all have? Way too many. You know what I think? Okay, I don't often go to as many museums as I ought to, but you can go to museums and you'll often see textiles from however many hundreds of years ago, uniforms and, you know, cloth that's been found out of the ground. Yeah. And textiles are very, very durable.
Yeah.
And I sort of think, gosh, if you know, in 200 years' time, they look back at what we did with our textiles, they would just think, was this, you know, did these people have a lobotomy, you call it? This stupid generation, just chucking all their valuable resources into a landfill?
Well, hopefully by then there would be nothing left in landfills because we've taken all this out as a resource and turned it into recycled and upcycled fashion. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, I mean, 4,000 liters to make one pair of jeans, 20,000 liters to make 1 pound of beef.
Wow.
So that's why the diet is by far the biggest polluter in the world today. Fashion's not far behind.
That's so great. I feel like we need to have a pile of jeans and a slab of meat.
Right
and
here.
look at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
And if you stop and think about it, how many burgers are eaten every day? How many quarter pounders, half pounders are eaten every day? So 20,000 liters is equivalent of running a shower non-stop for a month.
Yeah, it's quite
Non-stop.
disgusting.
That's how much water is consumed. And we are living on a planet that is suffering from drought.
Yeah.
And 50% of all of China's fresh water doesn't go to humans. It goes to cattle, to pigs and cows. 50%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Globally, it's just as bad. So the whole social, political, economic system is so outdated with the reality of what's happening on Earth today. And more of us are realizing that. And that's where change is starting to manifest itself more and more visibly. And we're seeing it with the younger generation now, Extinction Rebellion, and people actually standing up and speaking up. And my mummy in England, bless her, she's almost 85, and she's saying, what are these yobbos doing, blocking public transport and disrupting our lives? That's the older generation. But for anyone who's non-biased, standing on and observing, they're going, well, all they're doing is trying to stop an environmental crisis. That's all they do. They're speaking up on behalf of everyone. And so you see that generational clash happening now very visibly, and with global media, it's being broadcast.
No, well, I mean, Extinction Rebellion has not specifically, but one of their focuses is on the fashion industry. They tried to boycott London Fashion Week in September last year, and we know that fashion industry contributes 10% of global CO2. And if you look at those, I will call them activists, these young activists, you look at 10% of global CO2 for clothes that we don't really need. It's a very hot topic where fashion, I mean, when I talk to CEOs, business leaders, blah, 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 I think that climate is the one thing that's going to pinch them or punch them in the face for the future of their business. Because if you look at all of those younger kids, people, teens, 20s who are out there protesting and marching, they are the consumers for the next 80 years. And they are different. And the fashion industry knows that for sure. And it knows that ever since we had that 10% global CO2, for me, fashion and climate are going to be like this against each other.
And 2020 is upon us. And you're going to go full steam ahead.
I'm going out hard, particularly with this coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're buzzing and you're ready to go. So I'm 100% with you and all social entrepreneurs and environmental activists and change makers out there. 2020 is a clarion call for us to really step up our game. And some of us have been at it for decades, and some of us are just embarking on it today. And the 20s are upon us now, so I feel it's a chance for us to step up even further and speak up louder, but do it creatively, consciously, creatively, with integrity, and design products that do not pollute, that have good quality, and have a long shelf life. And we have everything we need. Everything we need is here for us today to really build a sustainable future for everyone and coming generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.